Hello, today I'm going to start reading a book called Horse Crazy, The Complete Adventures of Bonnie and Sam. It's quite a fat book, but it's actually 4 stories in one, and they're stories that I wrote and Roland Harvey illustrated. So I'll just read it like I'm reading normally, but I'll stop and show you the pictures as we go along. I really love Roland's beautiful watercolours, and at the start of the book there's this fabulous map of the town where the little girls live. It's called Currawong Creek. It's pretty hard to get in close enough for you to see all those details, but you can see where everything in the town is. Here we go. The first story is called The Shadow Brumby. Now you can see Roland's beautiful picture of horses. When we started doing this book, Roland didn't know much about horses, so I was always having to have discussions about where their legs went and what a saddle looked like and how it did up and all that sort of stuff. Here we go. I'll show you a picture. This is Bonnie and Sam, so you know what they look like while I'm reading. I'll read, the most I can read is 10 minutes, so I'll read until I think it's time to stop. Bonnie and Sam knew all the horses and ponies in Currawong Creek. They were horse crazy. Sam's real name was Samantha. She lived with her dad, Bill, in an old house that overlooked the creek. Bill Cooper was the local policeman. Bonnie, Bon for short, lived just outside town on a huge farm called Peppermint Plain. Bon's parents weren't interested in horses, even though Peppermint Plain was the perfect place for riding. Her mum Wu was a painter, always busy in her studio. Her dad, Chester, loved riding around the farm on his motorbike. But Bonnie and Sam lived for horses. Bonnie could talk a special horse language that she was sure they understood. Sam was strong and horsey. She could tell just by looking at a horse if it had a stone in its hoof or needed a drink. Sam's dog Pants followed her everywhere. Pants was short for Smarty Pants because she thought she knew everything. Here's chapter 2, The Horses and Ponies of Currawong Creek. So here we describe some of the ponies and horses that live there. Bonnie and Sam didn't have a horse of their own, but they managed to ride nearly every day. Their favourite horse was Whale, who belonged to Bon's Auntie Birdie. Whale was huge. He was long and wide and tall. He was so broad that Bonnie and Sam could sit face to face and play poker on his back. Whale shared his paddock with Bella, a tiny skewbald pony whose mane came down to her knees. When Sam sat on Bella, she could reach the ground with both big toes. Bella had been Bonnie's first pony, but the girls were far too big to ride her now. Instead, they spent hours grooming her and plaiting her mane. So there's Whale and Bella. Whale was based on my beautiful old horse Woollyfoot that I owned for about 30 years, and he was a huge, lovely horse. Then there was Biscuit, the most neglected horse in Currawong Creek. Wally Webster, the stock agent, hated horses, but he needed poor Biscuit for his stock work. If Bonnie and Sam hadn't checked her feed and water every day, she would have died long ago. Biscuit was frightened of Wally's rough ways and bellowing voice, so Wally depended on the girls to catch her for him. In return, they could ride her whenever they wanted. Oh, there's a picture of poor Biscuit with her grumpy owner. We did have a horse called Biscuit once, and she was a bit nervous. Chocolate Charm was another favourite. Her owner, Cheryl Smythe Tite, lived near the sale yards on a property that looked like a toy farm. It had perfect white fences, red sheds, and neat rows of trees with every leaf in place. Choco was a dressage horse, beautiful, well-educated and obedient. Sometimes Sam and Bonnie picked up horse poo in Cheryl's paddocks in exchange for riding lessons. Trotting around Cheryl's menage on the fabulous Choco was the closest thing to heaven the girls had ever known. So there you can see Cheryl's place with all its beautiful white fences and Chocolate Charm in the front paddock. Then there were Bonnie and Tex, who came to Currawong Creek. Then there were Bonnie and Tex, who came to Currawong Creek when their owners, Janice and Bob, took over the news agency. Blondie was an elderly quarter horse with a butterscotch coat and a sparkling white mane and tail. Every now and then, something would remind her of her sad past, and she'd go all nervous and spooky. Bon could whisper to Blondie in secret horse language and calm her down. Tex was an ugly Appaloosa with a very sweet nature. He adored Blondie. Nothing bothered Tex, not even when Bob dressed him up as a reindeer last Christmas and threw presents to the little kids waiting outside the news agency. And there you can see them. Beautiful Blondie and not very beautiful but lovely Tex. Prince Regent, known as Horry, was Currawong Creek's one and only racehorse. He hadn't won a race for years, but his owner, Bugsy Brady, believed he still had it in him. Horry was as scatty as a cat and saw spooks in every shadow. Sometimes Bon and Sam gave him a neck massage on their way home from school. It always put him to sleep. There's poor nervous Horry. Tricky was a piebald pony with a black and white personality to match his colouring. He was either very, very good or very, very bad. At Pony Club, he often played tricks on Michael, his owner. Tricky was the best games pony around, as nimble as a monkey, but he felt like playing up. He was a disaster. Tricky was devoted to Sam, who never walked past his paddock without stopping to adjust his fly veil or share her apple. Look at him. He looks like a wicked pony. And we did once have a pony called Tricky who was a little bit like that. Most of these horses are based on real animals, real horses. The grumpiest pony in Currawong Creek was Tarzan. He was a shaggy buckskin who lived in the paddock next to the primary school. Children had teased him for so long that he chased anyone who came near. Only Bonnie was brave enough to stand her ground, with Bonnie hiding behind her. Tarzan knew that the girls always bought a treat to make him happy. There's little Tarzan. Bonnie and Sam could ride all the horses, often bare-backed and double-dinking. Whenever there was time, the girls borrowed a horse and went riding. Sometimes in the mountains they caught a glimpse of the wild bush horses, the Brumbies. They looked so wild and free, yet Sam and Bonnie couldn't help dreaming about catching a yearling and taming it. What they didn't know was that one night, while they were still dreaming, a Brumby would come to them. This chapter is called Drover. There they are, sitting on the veranda. Sam sat on the back porch and watched her dad's new horse Drover pacing up and down the fence. "Why is she so unhappy, Pants?" The little dog whined softly as if to say she's unhappy because she hates being locked up. Drover's head was turned toward the hills. You could tell she wanted to be there. Sam called out, "Drover, Drover!" But the silver grey mare didn't even look her way. Pants rubbed against Sam's leg and made her special snuffly noises that meant, "Look at me, I want to be here." Sam scratched her wiry coat. "I know you're happy, but Drover just wants to run away." Oh, look at that picture. Horse running away from the train. The reason Drover hated being locked in a small paddock was that she had spent all her life on the open road. She was a drover's horse. Sam's dad had a mate called Smithy who had caught Drover as a 2-year-old Brumby and broke her in. She grew up to be quick, clever and calm. Smithy loved her. But one night he camped near a railway line and Drover was nearly hit by a train. She wasn't hurt, but after that, every time she heard or saw a train, she bolted. "She runs like the devil's after her," Smithy explained when he brought Drover to Currawong Creek. "I can't use her anymore because I often work near a train line." Sam's heart did a little somersault. Maybe he was going to give the horse to her. "But you could use a Bill. There's no train line here. She'd be perfect for your police work, and her hard little hooves never need shoes." Sam's face dropped and Smithy guessed what she'd been hoping for. "I'm sorry, Sam. I know you'd love your own horse, but this one's not for you. She's definitely not a kid's horse." Drover turned out to be an excellent police horse. Bill could catch her any time, day or night, and she'd do whatever he asked. It didn't bother Bill that she was unfriendly and restless in the paddock. He just wanted a horse that did the job, and Drover did. I think I better stop there because I'm nearly out of time. I can't do more than 10 minutes. Here's Dad on Drover facing down a ferocious bull. So I'll put a mark in that place and I'll remember where I'm up to and I'll do some more tomorrow. So thanks for listening. Bye-bye.